Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Maker Monday. Today's project is pretty simple. If you've got a plasma cutter and a welder and a few other small shop tools, you're going to need a torch and a pair of pliers. It's a real simple design, real easy to make, with a potentially big payout at the end. So why don't we get started on today's Maker Monday project. So a lot of times when I plasma cut something, I have left over a section of steel that is not really big enough to do anything with. This one is just over 4 inches, and it'll just be a little piece like this. This is 20 gauge, and one of the ways you can use up this section of steel and not waste it, you can see there's not much wasted on it, is to cut these metal roses. These sell really quick and really well at the gallery that I'm in. The first petal set is about 4 inches in diameter. The next one is about 3.5. Then we go down to 3. And then what's this one here? Pick it up. It's 2. And then the sepal, or the bottom part of the flower, is about 3 inches. So I have 4 petal sets and the sepal. And I go ahead and I just draw, when I draw this out on my steel, I do draw that little hole on each of them in the middle, and then I do my best to kind of get a roughly 1/4 inch hole started, so it makes it easier for the drill press, because we need those to be a perfect 1/4 inch, because we're going to stick 1/4 inch round rod up as our rose stem. So let's get these over to get them cleaned up. That's one of the things you have to do. You have to clean all the slag off of the back of each of these petal sets. It's not real bad, but you have, a little bit of slag build up. So we want to get all that off of there. So we're working with clean petals, and we'll take them to the drill press. I just wanted to mention too, when I cut these out, I don't cut them perfect. The more imperfect they are on your edges and on your cuts, the more real they tend to look. So you don't have to stay perfect to that pattern. I am using a magnetic chuck, so you basically just throw the piece down you want to clean up, and we can probably fit 3 on there. Turn on the magnet that holds them in place, and let's see what we got on here. Yeah, that'll work. All right, over to the drill press. Thought I'd mention too, I did not always have a magnetic chuck, and so how do you do it without? You can tell by looking at my vice grips. I used to do it the hard way, which was just clamp it down, and you can hold it against the table and flip it and manipulate it however you would like. So magnetic chuck is not required. You can use a pair of vice grips or a pair of pliers and hold it in place. But that sure does make it nice. You also don't have to have a plasma cutter to cut the individual pieces. If you have an angle grinder, you can do it with an angle grinder. Yes, it's a little bit harder, and your line is probably not going to be that close, but it can be done with just an angle grinder. I've done it. So like I said, we are using 1/4 inch rod that we're going to put through the center of each of these petal sets. So we're just using a 1/4 inch drill bit, and we're just going to drill a 1/4 inch hole. That's why I have a glove on. I don't always wear gloves, but when I do, you better have them on too. Now we want to take the back side of those where it left that little burr on there. We're going to throw them back on the magnetic chuck and just knock that off of each of them. Now what we want to do is take our 1/4 inch rod and we want to, one, make it look like it's a fresh cut flower. So typically what I do is I kind of shave the end of it so it looks like it's been cut with a pair of scissors. And then I round this end so that it's easier to kind of pierce it through the petal pieces. So let's go make that one look like the cut one. The other thing is, making it just a straight stick doesn't look real. That's not how nature typically does things. So we need to add just a little bit of body, a little bit of a bend into it. So let's put that cut in there first. Choose one that's not hot. I'm gonna put our bend in there. So I just come over to the vise and I get it set for, I'm gonna probably do it. And then I just kind of bend them one way, just a tiny bit. I'm just pulling it towards me. And put a little bit more right down here. Loosen it just a little bit. It looks a little bit square. Nature typically does things in nice smooth curves. Let's see, this one needs to go, I kind of do opposing turns, if you will. That looks pretty good. So you want it to be something not perfect, you know what I mean? And let's take this actually at the top where we're starting to kind of curve in, and let's curve it in just a little bit more so the head of that flower kind of tips in a little bit. Sound like Bob Ross. Let's just turn that a little bit more so the head of that flower. There we go. A little bit more. All right. We're ready to start building. This is going to be our little leaf stem for our leaves. I'm going to go ahead and bend it kind of in the same fashion so that we have it ready to go as well. So there's our leaf stem. And I don't know what this is, 1/8. It might even be a coat hanger. I'm not sure what it is. You can use whatever you got. And if you have something that's a little bit bigger than 1/4, just drill the hole bigger on your petals. It's all good. So right up here is where I keep my little clamp-on vices. And this one is the one I typically use when I'm making the roses. That's the one I like the best for this project. And I keep a piece of wood in there. And that piece of wood goes under here when you mount it to the table. So that it mounts up pretty easily. These little clamp-on vices are super nice. Again, not required to do this job, but it sure does make it a lot easier. We're going to take our stem. We want to put it about 1 inch down. I'm just going to guess. Doesn't have to be perfect. Depending on how sloppy of a welder you are, you might want to allow a little more room there. If you tend to leave great big globs around everything, you'll need a little more space. And the very first one we want to start with is the bottom. We're going to work our way from the bottom up. So we want to start with the sepal. We're going to throw that on there. And these will be just a little bit snug, but that's okay. That's the way we want it to be, because we want it to kind of hold its place when we put it down on there. So let's get the welder. We'll tack that in a couple spots, and I'll show you kind of how I tack those on there so that I make sure that I don't have to try to get back in there after all the petals are on. Missed on the first one. So I try to just kind of hit it at 3 spots, and you want to try to not go real tall because you've got to stack your next petal set down on there. You do want to always kind of wire wheel it off because that's the last time you're going to be able to get to that. And now we're ready to throw on the next one. Now I try to look at it and see which surface kind of looks the best, and that's the one I leave out. So this is going to be the outside, this is going to be the inside. I'm putting the crummy looking, what I'm considering the crummy looking surface on the inside of the flower. This will be what you see. That looks a little better to me, so I'm going to turn that out. We're going to work that down. Now the next one, the part that you see, is going to be this upper part because the lower part of the petal is going to be covered. You'll see what I mean. Now we just got to go this one, next one, next one, next one, until we get to the top. When you put your next one on, you want to rotate, if you can, rotate them so that they're kind of offset. The petals are offset. So let's see, this is the better one. That's the one we want out. That one's really tight. I'll show you what I mean by offset. We get this spun down on there. So I don't want to line the petals up. I want to offset these lines here. So we want to kind of turn it about like that. You'll see why. All right, let's get that one on. Bring in, and I'm going to show you right up here on top, that's flat place where we cut the steel rod. That doesn't look very natural, so we're just going to drop a couple of welds right on top of that to make it look more like a flower. Hard part's done. Just want to kind of show you the spacing. Not perfectly even, but you kind of get an idea of what we're going for. And this is what it looks like from the top. And now what we want to do is we want to start curling all of these up so that they just kind of start to look like the petals of a real flower. Keep in mind, it doesn't have to be a rose. It could be any flower you want it to be. You just have to be willing to go cut the pattern for it. In my case, I have tried several different ones. The rose is by far the most popular. I typically use 2 different sets of pliers. I've got a set of needle nose, and that's kind of how I turn and make the shape of the petal. And then occasionally you get it where you need a wider set of pliers so you can kind of squeeze everything together and kind of tighten it up a little bit. So I keep these 2 handy and ready to go, but most of our shaping, as you can see by the tips of these, is going to be done using these. They've done this task a time or 2. So you just need a torch for this particular step, and we're going to just start shaping the petals up, and you'll see it start to take shape pretty quickly. And it does not take very much heat at all. I tend to leave the biggest petal, if I've got an option, I leave the biggest petal for last. May have to go shape my pliers down just a little bit. The point is not very good on them. I'm going to have to go work on these and get those points back to where we can use them correctly. But let me bring you in and show you what that kind of starts to look like. So it starts taking shape pretty quickly. Let me go fix the pliers and we'll continue on. There is a quench bucket right under my table. I've added a little sharper point on those. We'll start quenching them a little more frequently maybe. So again, leaving the largest petal. I'm going to start with this one and we'll work our way around. I kind of turn up each side before I start to shape it. This is a really good project to do on a colder day. Not so much like today when it's like 95 degrees outside. It's a good fair weather, or cool weather project. I'll try to bring you in if I can work. I need an overhead cam. Try to bring you in maybe right there. I don't know how heat. Seems okay. You don't have to have an acetylene torch. You can use MAP gas, whatever you got. I'm going to leave the largest one, which is right here. So we're going to start here and work our way around. I don't intentionally cut a larger one, but there usually is one that's bigger. If I don't have the camera and I'm not filming while I'm making one of these, I can do it in about 30 minutes. Especially if I've got them in an assembly line. You can see how when you leave the biggest one, it'll cover all the area that I'll show you here. When you leave that biggest one, get a pair of pliers here. Actually, I'll just use this for a pointer. Sometimes you have a big gap right here on this upper two petals. So if you leave the biggest one, when you go to pull it up, it will cover that gap really well. That's why I always say leave the largest petal or a larger petal for last. So this will be our last one on the lowest petal set. And I'm looking down on it right now. This right here, this particular curl looks very unnatural, so it needs a few little bends in it, and then I think that'll be good. So I'm gonna move you back over here for the last one, so you can be out of my way. That last one was a big wide gap like I was talking about, and that last petal almost didn't fill it. There is what you get after you've done all of your heat work. I'm going to go back in, like I said, on that middle one and just kind of dial that in a little bit, and I think we got it. I usually just let that sit here and cool. It's got pretty good heat coming off of it. After it's cooled off, rather than dunking it in water and causing big problems, when you dunk it in water, it tends to rust down inside before you can even get to it to clean it off. And obviously you can't get down in there very well to clean that off, so don't put it in water. Just let it cool. And then once it's cooled, we can kind of stretch the petals kind of where we want them if we don't want them in that tight of a clump. But while that's cooling, I jump over and work on the leaves. So for each rose, I also cut a group of 3 leaves, kind of 2 that are bigger and 1 that's a little smaller. And these have to go through the same process. Get the backside ground off, and then we'll shape them into leaves and get those welded onto our little leaf stem while that guy is cooling. I've got my leaves all cleaned up, but we want to add some veins in them to kind of make them look like real leaves. So I use one of these. It's just a little homemade tool that has a little groove in it, and you just whack it with a hammer. So I'm going to just line my leaf up kind of where I want my little vein to be, and we're going to whack the vein patterns into that. And then after we get done with that, we're going to kind of do the same thing as we did on the petals and kind of just roll a couple edges to make it look legit. Where is my brass? Here it is. Let's see, we're going to put you so you can see and I'm not in your way. Is that good? About right there where all the action's happening. So I just kind of line it up kind of where I want it. Put my hand on the back to hold it in place. Just gonna give it a good whack. These are easy to make. The spring that's on the back is just a piece of steel that I've curved. Just something like that. On to the next. Don't get your fingers in there. I teach classes, and the rose is one of the things we do, and this is always the part that concerns me. I'm afraid someone's going to get their hand in there and whack it with a hammer. That would hurt very badly. So far, we've not had that happen. Number 2. And number 3. I have to hit it real hard, just enough to give it just want a texture. The harder you hit it, the more it curves, obviously. So this end one, I'm hitting it just a little bit harder. We want it to curve just a little bit more. There's that one. Now I'm just going to take these edges and kind of roll. Just kind of roll some of them. And you don't have to have heat when you're just doing a little bit like that. Now it's pretty good. Turn this just a little bit. Again, the less perfect they are, the more natural they look. I mean, as natural as metal can be. We are making flowers from metal. That's pretty good. This one kind of naturally wants to kind of curve this way, so we're just going to kind of let it do its thing. Kind of roll it up just a little bit. And we'll turn this one down. All right, get those welded to their stem. I'll just run this one by you for a close-up there. You can kind of see how I made it. That's just a set screw. So this chisel is adjustable just a little bit. And it's just a chisel welded to a piece of steel that I've bent to make a spring. That's it, and then that's just a big piece of C-channel. These are kind of tricky. They don't want to stay in place, and so I just use a couple of magnets usually to hold those in place. So kind of how we want this to go on our stem, we're going to use a straight stem for an example, is where this curve is, we're going to attach it like that. And we kind of want it bent out just a little bit. Let's see which side is the best to bend out. Probably that one. So we'll use that side. So let's put the leaves on this end. So I am going to attach that to our table, like so. And then the smallest leaf I put on the end. And then these two, this one kind of naturally wants to curve this way, so we're going to put them that way, but we're going to give ourselves a tab, a fighting chance to not burn through. So I'm just going to give myself a tab right there. And then this one will go right on top of that, and those are going to work out perfect because this one's got that little hump there. That's what we're going to weld. And then usually on this side, you're left with one of those ends again that looks like it's been fresh cut in a saw, not like in nature. So I'm just going to add a little drop of weld right there and try not to blow through that leaf. Let's put that back here. Got a little too cocky on that one. Not the greatest. Whoop. Let's clean it up. I'm gonna shut you off and get down in those little grooves with another little wheel. You can actually probably do it with this one. I just gotta have the right angle. Yeah, there we go. So there's what a leaf set looks like. Our rose is touchable now, at least. You don't want to turn the sepal up until we're done kind of cleaning and shaping everything up here, because once it's turned up, you can't get to it. So now we need to go in and add our thorns to the stem, and then we can put our leaf stem on. How do we do thorns? I just take the welder and go bzzzt, bzzzt, and I kind of rotate around the stem. So I just kind of space them randomly, and then I make sure I leave a spot that doesn't have any really, so we can put our leaves on. And then I went ahead and signed it too. Right there, signed and dated. So let's put this guy on there. Now we're getting there. It's starting to look like a proper flower. You just got to clean up the petals, turn up the sepal, see if we want to add a little. So So the big thing we want to do now is kind of knock off all of this gray blue. It's a result of heating it, getting it so hot when you bend it. So if we can go, and you can see how that, I don't know if you can see that or not, how it's kind of brownish in there. We're going to do our best to just kind of knock all that off. I am going to open it up just a little bit more. Just think it needs to be kind of opened up just a little bit more. Just going to take some of the petals and just kind of bend them down. This is more like a, there we go. You don't want a carnation look if you're doing a rose, you know? I'm just going to bend some of that out just a little bit. That one right there needs to go out. We're getting close. That petal there probably should have been turned down a couple more edges, but we're going to go with it the way it is. I'm the only one that'll notice. And need to go a little more on this side. That looks pretty good. I like that. So now I'm going to take the wire wheel and just kind of go along, and we're going to knock off as much of that layer as will come off. I don't get too stressed about it. I just knock off the loose stuff. And then down in here, I don't know if you can see, there's some like little flakes that are just kind of stuck to the metal. I'll go in and try to knock those off too. You can use a little wire brush by hand. Hang on just a second and I'll get it for you. So you can get down in here with a wire brush that kind of looks like that. You can get down in and clean all that stuff out of there. But we are going to use one of these guys. And I have only found these quick connect style at Lowe's. And I will use that until it is almost gone. Here's one that's pretty whittled away. You can see the difference there. And sometimes these work better because you need a more abrasive wheel, and so as it gets tighter and tighter and tighter to the center disc, it gets stiffer. But for the rose, we want it to be really flexible. So we're going to use one of these. I am going to wear a glove on my left hand as I hold it because I'm going to be holding the sharp part and it's going to want to rip it back at me. So I'm going to put a glove on my left hand and we're just going to go in with the wire wheel and do our best to kind of clean all that out of there. Totally changes the look of it. And now I'll spend some time going down in with another little tool and clean down inside, and then we'll hit the backs of each of the petal sets and we'll take a peek again. Before I hit this back petal set, I usually turn all of these away from me because I'm going to run the wire wheel right up in there. It's a good way to die. And you're always going to get something that kind of looks like that, where you leave a little bit of it on there, and that's fine. If we add color, that actually helps with the realistic believability of it when you add color. There's a couple little rust areas down in there that I'm going to try to get cleaned out, and if we can't get them, I'm not going to worry about it because we're going to eventually clear coat it. Of course, there's multiple ways you can go about putting color on this. You can grab your can of favorite Rust-Oleum or whatever you have kicking around. You can use that. I have used this Duplicolor in the past and it works really well. It does look like the cap. It's kind of a metallic, almost a see-through kind of paint. They have it advertised on a set of rims here. This is red anodized and it does work pretty well. I've used it in the past. But I think what we're going to try on this one is the alcohol inks. I don't have enough red, unfortunately, of the pearl to do this particular rose, so we're going to go with purple. I like the pearl, and they actually say pearl on them. They have some mica in there, and it really gives it a neat effect. So we'll maybe try blending the purple and the pink, kind of give it a lighter tip maybe. So you add the dark first, and then you go back in with the lighter. We'll see how this goes. I'm gonna move you. The really nice thing about the alcohol inks is if you don't like it, you can just wipe it off with alcohol. These do have to be clear coated with a clear coat because they will not last. It'll flake off the metal if you don't clear coat it. But it's kind of a neat effect. That one doesn't look like it has very much mica in it, so maybe let's add... Oh yeah, that one's much better. I kind of start from the bottom, kind of work my way in. I'm blocking you, aren't I? How about that? It's pretty dark. I'm just going back through now with a little bit of pink. See if I can get it to show up. Just a little bit. I am not a pink and purple person. I do apologize that I did not have red. Apologize to myself. Yeah. I kind of like them just metal. But the colored ones do sell pretty well. And since that's where this one's going tomorrow, yeah. I don't know if that's showing up in camera or not, but that looks pretty darn good. Yeah. Yeah, just a little bit more back here. I think we're gonna call it. Alcohol inks will kind of run together, which is nice. They're kind of like a watercolor in that respect. But you kind of got to be willing to work with that flow, which for something like this works great because the less perfect it is, the better. See how that kind of did that little ruffle thing? That's kind of neat. All right, I'll continue on with that just for a little bit longer, and then I think we're going to call it. All right, that's what we're going with. I like that. It's pretty good. Now, the magic happens. There's a little spot right there I missed. I see it in camera. I didn't see it. It's right there. The magic happens when you put the clear coat on. That's what really brings it out. Yeah. That's better. So let me grab some 2X clear and we're going to coat it. But before we do that, we're going to turn these guys in where we want them. Yeah, good enough for government work. And then I just take a little S-hook that I've made out of some furnace wire, slip it up over it like that. So then when I go to paint it, I can manipulate it because it's going to want to drip. So I can kind of pivot it and manipulate it by hooking my finger through there. And then that isn't really going to matter that doesn't get painted. And then I can just hang it up by that and let the clear coat dry. We're going to use our 2X clear. I know. Today was making flowers. Probably not your favorite thing to do. It's not my favorite thing either. But there might be someone in your life who might really appreciate getting one from you. Just saying. Next time you think about throwing away that car door scrap that you cut out, or a hood or something like that, maybe take a peek at it and see if you can build something else out of it. You know, that 55 Chevy car door I cut the Statue of Liberty out of? I'll put a link right here if you haven't seen that one. All that teal scrap we cut out of there? Yeah, I kept all that because you never know. Might make a good flower for something someday. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll catch you on the next one.